Okay, hi everyone. We're back continuing our review, our number sense and algebra review, and we are on question number 10, which says, which of the following fish tanks would contain an amount of water represented by the expression B equals 24x squared y when completely full? Okay, well, when the fish tanks are completely full, then the volume of water would be equal to the volume of the fish tank. So what we have to do is calculate the volume of these four different fish tanks. These are all rectangular prisms, right? So we go to our formula sheet and we recall that the volume of a rectangular prism is equal to the length times the width times the height. Okay, so let's do that for each of these fish tanks. All right, so for A, our volume would be, okay, so 2y times 3y times 4x. Okay, and that's going to simplify to, well, let's first start by combining all of our numbers, our digits, right? So 2 times 3 is 6, right? And 6 times 4 is 24. So our numbers are going to multiply to 24. All right, and we have, now let's look at our y term. So we have a y here and a y here. And remember that even though there's no exponent, they technically have an exponent of 1. And when we multiply terms that have the same base, we just add the exponents together. So we're going to get y 1 plus 1, 2. So y squared. And then we only have one x, so right, x. Okay, so 24y squared x, but that does not match what we're trying to find, right? We're trying to find 24x squared y. So let's keep trying. All right, so I'm going to now try B. So this one here was A. I'm going to try B. So again, volume is equal to the length times width times height. So I have y times 4x times 6x. Okay. So again, let's start by multiplying our numbers together. So I have 4 times 6. Again, that's 24. Okay. Now, my x, I see I have two x's, right? And I know each of those has an exponent of 1. So when I combine that, when I simplify it, I'm going to get x squared, 1 plus 1. And then I only have one y, so y. Okay, and that's the expression for volume that we're looking for. So we can just stop here, and we know that the answer is going to be B. All right. Oops. So let's can go ahead and move on to the next problem. This question 11. Okay, more exponent laws. So the expression below can be simplified. Which of the following shows the expression in its simplest form? Okay, let me start by just quickly going over our exponent laws. Okay. So there is the product rule. rule, and that's when we're multiplying two powers, sorry, um, two powers that have the same base. So if we had a exponent m times a exponent n, what we would end up with is a exponent m plus n. Okay, so that's product rule. All right, now the quotient rule is when we're dividing two powers. So if I have a exponent m over a exponent n, that's going to result in a m minus n. And then there was the power of a power rule. Power of a power rule. And that's when we have a exponent m all to the exponent n. And that simplifies to a exponent m times n. Okay, so that's basically it. A quick review of the exponent laws. So let's get back to the actual question here. All right. So start by just rewriting it. Have x squared y exponent 3 over xy squared. Okay, so first thing I do is I look to see if I can simplify inside my brackets. And I can't actually, because if I look inside my the top of my fraction bar, right, I can't combine the two terms, the x squared and the y can't combine. So I can't simplify inside the bracket there or on the bottom of the fraction bar. So since I can't do brackets, I move on to exponents. All right. So I need to distribute the exponent 3 to each of the terms inside my bracket. And I need to do the same thing to the exponent 2 on the bottom. So what this will look like is I will have x. Now the new exponent on the x is going to be 2 times 3, right? 2 times 3, which is 6. And the new exponent on the y, well, remember, there is a 1 there, right? And 1 times 3 is 3. Okay. And then I'm going to distribute the 2 again. Remember, each of these guys has an exponent of 1. So we end up with x squared, y squared. Okay. So now I'm going to use our quotient rule, right? So I'm gonna simplify my two x terms, and I'm gonna simplify my two y terms. Excuse me. Okay, so my x, right, it is going to become 6 minus 2. The exponent on my y is going to become 3 minus 2, which simplifies to x exponent 4, y exponent, well, that's going to be 1, but I don't have to write the 1, okay? So, looks like that is A here. Okay, good. Oops. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, another volume question. So, a box with a volume of 12x squared y squared is shown below. Okay, so it tells us the volume, and I can see from the diagram that it also tells us 2 of the 3 dimensions, right? But it doesn't tell us the width, right? So we have the length and we have the height, but we don't have the width. Okay, so let's think about how we're going to do that. We're going to start off with the hint that's given, right? The equation for volume of a box or rectangular prism is length times width times height. Okay, so for length, we have 2x. For width, we don't know width actually. Okay, we don't know what W is. So I'm just going to put W. And then for our height, we have 2y. All right? We also know that volume is equal to 12x squared y squared. So let's put that onto the left side of our equation. So I'm going to go 12x squared y squared. Okay? All right. Let's clean up the right side of my equation here, okay? So let's first multiply our two numbers together. 2 times 2. All right, that simplifies to 4. All right, and then all I'm left with is x, w, and y. And I don't need brackets, right? Because those are just variables. So 4x, y, w. Okay, it doesn't matter what order I put them in. Is equal to 12x squared y squared. All right, so I want to figure out what the width is, right? This is what I'm trying to do. That's my unknown. So what I have to do is I have to solve the equation for W, or in other words, isolate W. Get W alone. Okay, so let's think about this. Right, on this side we're multiplying, W is being multiplied by 4xy, right? So to get rid of that 4xy, we have to divide, right? Divide both sides by 4xy. Okay, and when we do that, we get some canceling out, right? Cancels out, cancels out. And then here we can do some simplifying. So on the next line, right, all that would be left on the right side would be W, okay? And let's simplify the left side. So we start by simplifying our numbers. So 12 divided by 4 is going to give us 3, okay? And then we have x, so we're going to do 2 minus, remember there's a 1 there, so 2 minus 1 is 1, and I don't have to put the exponent. And then again, I have y squared divided by y, so that is also y. And that's actually what we're looking for, right? We're looking for the width of the box. So our answer ends up being B. Okay, good. All right, some more exponent law problems here. Okay. Expressions for the base area and the volume of a prism are given below. Okay, we haven't talked about base area. Let me just explain, quickly what that means. When they say base area, when you have a rectangular prism, right, one of the surfaces is going to be, touching the ground. So what it's saying is that the area of this surface is equal to 16 AB exponent 3, right? And what we have to remember is that area of the base, well, isn't that just the length times the width, right? Okay, so we know that, let's start off with the general equation. Volume equals length times width times height. Okay, so let's put what we do know, okay? We do know the volume. The volume is going to be 64, a exponent 3, b exponent 6. So let me put that in. So I replace b with 64, a exponent 3, b exponent 6. Now, let's think about what we do know about the right side of our equation, okay? So we don't actually have, we're trying to find h, right? That's what we're trying to find. We're trying to figure out which expression represents the height of the prism. We aren't directly given length or width, but we are given, right? We are given what length times width is equal to, right? Because we're given the area of the base, right? And the base is a rectangle. So the area of the base is length times width, and we know that that is equal to 16ab cubed. Okay? So what that means is we can now we're going to replace this LW with the expression 16ab cubed. So 16ab cubed. And then times h. All right, now what's left to do? Well, we have to isolate for h. Remember, that's what we're trying to find. The whole goal is to get h to be alone. So, again, we're going to have to divide both sides. And the way we get h alone is to divide both sides by 16ab cubed. So we do it to both sides. 16ab cubed. Okay, and that's good because it cancels everything out here, right? And all we're left with is an h. Okay, so we're just left with an h. Okay, so let's do some simplifying. Okay, oh, oops. Oh no, I'm sorry, never mind. Okay, so let's do some simplifying. So first we're going to simplify our numbers, all right? So we have 64 divided by 16, and that is equal to 4, okay? So our number is now going to be, our coefficient is now going to be 4, all right? Now we're going to simplify our a term. So we have a, now we're using quotient law, so a in the new exponent is going to be 3 minus 1. Right, so 2. And finally, we'll simplify our b term, right, or we have b exponent 6 and then b exponent 3. So 6 minus 3 gives us 3. Okay, and that's what we're left with. We're left with an expression that represents the height of the prism. So our answer, well, it happens to be F. F is our answer. Okay, moving along. Okay. The volume of a rectangular prism is represented by 12x cubed. The height is represented by 3x. Which of the following represents the area of the base? Okay. Well, this is kind of like a different version of the question we just did, right? Because let's remember, volume of a rectangular prism, we know length times width times height. We could also say that the volume is equal to the area of the base, right, times the height, because that's the same thing. Length times width is the area of the base. Let me just draw my rectangular prism. Oh goodness. Right, something like that. Right, the area of the base, that's a terrible drawing, right? The area of the base is equal to the length times the width, right? So if we can multiply the area of the base times the height, then we'll end up with the volume. Okay. So this question, is asking us to figure out what the area of the base is. So we're trying to actually isolate, this term, right? A, and then just lowercase base, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's start subbing in what we do have. Okay, so again, we know the volume is represented by 12x exponent 3. Okay, and then I'm going to have, okay, again, area of the base times the height, right? And the height is given or represented by 3x. Okay. So again, remember, we want to isolate what we're trying to solve for. So we got to get this guy all alone. So the only way to do that is to divide both sides by 3x. Okay, because that lets us cancel these guys out, right? And leaving us with the area of the base all alone. Okay, so now all that's left to do is to simplify the left side of our equation. So again, we start by simplifying our numbers. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then we use the quotient law, right? Our new exponent on the x is going to be 3 minus 1, which is 2. Okay, so that means A is the right answer. Okay. All right, question 15. The area of the rectangle shown below is 6 xy squared units. Xy squared square units. Okay. So it says, if the width is 3x units, which expression represents the length of the rectangle? I just want to point out one thing that for our English language learners, when it says 3x units, right, that just means, it could, when it says units, it could mean meters, it could mean centimeters, it could mean kilometers, right? So when it says units, it's just a general term, all right? Okay, so the area of the rectangle is given, okay? And we're trying to figure out which expression is the length. So again, let's start off with our formula. Length times width. All right. And let's put in what we're trying to find. We're trying to find length, and we're given width. So I don't know length, but I do know width, 3x. And I do know the area, right? The area is given as 6xy squared. 6xy squared. All right, so again, I want to get L all alone. That's what I'm trying to find. So I want to get L all alone. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3x, because that cancels out the 3x, and all I'm left with is an L. Okay, so let's simplify our numbers. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Simplify our x. Oh, we have an exponent here. 1 minus 1 is 0, right? Well, you guys remember, anything exponent 0 is equal to 1, right? So we could put 1, right? But if we put in 1, 2 times 1 is just 2 anyway. So there's really no point in writing the 1 unless you really want to. Sorry. Okay, so the x it gets canceled out, right? Gets canceled out. All right, so all we're left with is y squared. Okay, so length is equal to 2y squared units. Okay, moving on. 16. Each side of a cube is 2y centimeters long. What is the volume of the cube? Okay, cube. Well, the word cube, right, that just means it's a special type of rectangular prism, right? It's a rectangular prism where the length and the width and the height are all equal, okay? So instead of having the equation length times width times height, well, all of those are all the same. So if I just call it, let's call it the side length or whatever, it would be S times S times S, or just x exponent 3. Okay? So let's think about this. Okay, we want to figure out what the volume is. So volume is equal to S exponent 3. Okay, the side length, where S is the side length. Now we're going to replace S with 2y, because that's what our side length is. Our side length is 2y. So I'm going to have b equals 2y exponent 3. Okay, so this is the power of a power rule, right? I have to distribute my exponent to everything inside my bracket, and that includes bringing it to my coefficient, the 2, right? And I end up with 2 exponent 3, and then y exponent 3. I'm not done yet, right? I need to simplify further, because I can simplify. 2 exponent 3 is 8. And that is going to be my final answer. So the volume of the cube can be represented by 8y exponent 3. '17. Okay, we're getting into polynomials and simplifying expressions. Okay, so the sum, let me read this. The sum of the perimeters of two shapes is represented by 13x plus 4y. The perimeter of one shape is represented by 4x minus 2y. Which expression represents the perimeter of the other shape? Okay, this is a good question. All right. So basically, sum, right? The sum of perimeters. What does sum mean? Well, sum means adding, right? So if it's saying the sum of the perimeters of two shapes, then that means, perimeter of the first shape, I'll just call that P1, perimeter of the first shape, is plus the perimeter of the second shape. And I know that the sum of the perimeters is going to be represented by 13x plus 4y. Okay, it doesn't matter what the shapes are. Okay, all right. Then it says the perimeter of one shape is represented by 4x minus 2y. Right? So we just have to pick, one of the perimeters to be equal to 4x minus 2y. All right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say 4x minus 2y. I'm going to say that's the perimeter. That's the perimeter of my shape 1. Then I still have my second shape, right? So perimeter of shape 2, I still don't know that. All right. Now, what I have to do is I have to isolate for the perimeter of the second shape, right? So P2. So what I have to do is get everything to the other side of that equal sign. Okay. So you guys will remember that when a term passes over the equal sign, the operation associated with it has to reverse, right? Or it has to be the inverse operation. So this 4x, even though there's no plus sign in front of it, it is positive 4x, right? So when we move it over, it's going to become negative 4x, okay? Similarly, when we pick up this 2y, or the negative 2y, right, and we bring it over to the other side, well, the inverse of subtracting is adding, so we're going to add 2y. So I'll show you what the next line would look like. So I would have P2 all alone. I would still have 13x plus 4y, right? I haven't touched those two guys. And then I'm going to take my 4x over, and it's going to become negative, or minus 4x. Okay, then I'm going to take my negative 2y, or subtract 2y, and it's going to become add 2y plus 2y. All right, so now I just have to collect my like terms, right? So remember, I can only combine terms that have the same variable and the same exponents, right? So these are like terms here, and then these are like terms, so I can combine those. So 13x minus 4x, that leaves us with 9x. And then we have 4y plus 2y, that gives us 6y. Okay, and that ends up being B. Okay, good. All right, a rectangular field has a perimeter of 10a minus 6 meters and the width of 2a meters. Which expression represents the length of this field? Okay, good. So again, let's start with the equation for perimeter of a rectangle. Well, perimeter is just adding up the side lengths, right? So we call this the width, right? And we call this the length. So perimeter is equal to 2 times the length, right? Length here, plus 2 times the width. Okay. So again, let's start by subbing in what we know. We know that perimeter can be represented by 10a minus 6. So let's put that in. Replace p with 10a minus 6. Okay. We don't know length, so there's nothing we can do here. But we do know the width. So 2, and instead of writing w, I'm going to write the width, which is 2a. Okay, so I'm going to start simplifying now. Okay, so all right, I'm going to leave 10a minus 6 alone. Can't simplify or combine those terms. 2L. This becomes 4A, right? 2 times 2A, 4A. Now I need to get L alone, right? Because this is what I'm trying to isolate. So I'm going to move my 4A to the other side. And when I do that, it goes from plus 4A to minus 4A. So I get 10A minus 4A, and I still have that minus 6. That didn't go anywhere. Then I have 2L. So let's keep simplifying. 10A minus 4A, 6A minus 6 equals 2L. Okay? I can't simplify anymore, right? These terms don't go together. But I still haven't gotten LL alone. I have to divide both sides by 2 to do that. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Okay? So, I end up with 6A over 2 minus 6 over 2 equal to L, which is 3A minus 3 is equal to L. Okay, so that looks like C. All right, let's stop there for today, and I will continue working through this package with you guys tomorrow. Okay.